Here with Dr. Shiva. Man, thanks for coming on. I've been following you for a while. I love some of a lot of things I don't know about you, which I'll ask on this show. But I originally saw, I think it was they sung Zionist Cock when you're running for office, and you just went on one of the best rants I've seen. That was brilliant. So thanks for coming on.
Great to be here, Jake. And I think when I did that piece, I was running for U.S. president, and I had just gotten back from Asia. And it was interesting because I took a long flight, and my volunteers wanted me to do this podcast where we were doing a Q&A, and I was really tired, man. And I just got up, put on my suit, went into my home studio, and we did it. But it just came out very naturally because, I've been exposing and fighting Zionism probably since 1984.
Wow.
It really, yeah. When I was a student at MIT, there was a guy called Meir Kahane, complete racist Zionist. This was after a major killing that the Israelis did and you can look it up, called Sabra and Shatila, where Israeli tanks actually ran over citizens.
Wow.
And so there was this guy Meir Kahane was like this guy Shumli, that rabbi guy, and he had come to Brandeis University, which is a predominantly Jewish college in Massachusetts, and I organized one of the largest protests and we chased him away. But my early realization was Zionism is a political ideology. And you see, I come from India, which has a caste system. You see what I'm saying, Jake?
So you could recognize it right away of like that's actually brilliant. It is like a caste system.
There. Yeah. So my earliest memories in India, which I've talked about, was as a 4-year-old kid playing soccer, going to this kid's home, and his mother started screaming at me, didn't want me to enter his home because I was a Shudra, which is like the N-word. You see, and that's when I asked my mother, what is this? And she said, oh, we are considered quote unquote lower caste untouchables. So as a kid, we got very motivated to understand political theory. So I read everything you can imagine, left, right wing, as a kid. So the caste system basically says one set of people, the Brahmins, are better than anyone else purely because of a birth lottery. And that is what Zionism now, and by the way, the caste system in some ways uses Hinduism and fucks it all up.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can curse here, and calls it Hinduism. And this is what, you have, all these religions are all fucked up in some ways, if you really study any religion, right? They have all sorts of wacky shit.
Yeah.
Christianity has crazy shit in the Old Testament. Judaism has wacky shit. Hinduism has crazy shit. Islam has crazy shit. But nonetheless, you put the religion over here, and then you create political ideologies. So the Indian caste system was created by taking pieces of Hinduism, wrapping it up under some bullshit and saying these people, because they're darker, right, are lesser, and therefore it's okay to subjugate them. That's where it comes from. It's about exploitation.
And you can never really move up, right? Once you're that caste, you can't move up, correct? In the society, for the most part?
Right, so you're allotted into this caste, and it's by government edict even. So, and it's still practiced in India. Most of the Indians who come to the United States, like this scumbag Vivek Ramaswamy, right, is a Brahmin.
They think they're the higher caste, so they look down.
Exactly.
So that's why they work so good with, a lot of Indians obviously working so good with Jewish people and the Zionists. So maybe they both can look down like, oh, we're better than these people.
Well, the fundamental level, so Zionism, Herzl created this political ideology. Judaism has all sorts of shit in it, right?
Yeah.
Took segments of it, wrapped it up, and said these people are the chosen people. This is no different than the Brahmins. It's no different than the caste system. These people are the chosen people. So you should feel good being fucked over by them. And then there's some other world after. They wrap in karma and crap. So you be happy that you're subjugated. You see, so they mix in religions like fucking brainwashing. Now my parents were quite extraordinary people, my mother particularly. And there's a picture of my mother, there's a dark-skinned Indian woman who got a master's degree in India in 1940s in statistics. And all the other guys are these white Brahmins with turbans on their heads. So my parents were pretty radical. My dad grew up in Burma in World War II, right? So both of them were 1 in a trillion. And the fact that we made it to the United States was quite extraordinary. So, but I was very motivated by politics as a young kid, and also medicine and science, because my grandmother was a traditional healer. Where in this ancient system of Indian medicine, they combine martial arts, yoga, meditation, etc. So that's what really, sort of merged me with interest in politics and medicine. That's why when I gave that talk, it was real fierce anger. Like I knew this shit is so fucked up.
Yeah, it was just.
That these people are Zionist cocksuckers. It wasn't scripted, right? It's just coming out.
That's probably why it was so good. The best stuff's really when you said authentic, you could feel it coming out. It is pretty brilliant on the cusp. As far as the medicine though, I think a mixture between our medicine and Eastern medicine. It's like a mix. I think pieces of both, and we've taken it probably because antibiotics were such an amazing thing if they're not overused. But a lot of other stuff isn't. People just fully believe in it. But really, we need to mix it. So I'm glad to hear you do both. As far as the untouchable, the quote unquote untouchable, that would just drive me crazy. Which obviously it must have with you. Do most people just accept it that we're less? Or it's to be true?
I think so, Jake. I mean, for me, it was I will never forget that scene until the day I exit this planet. Is this 4-year-old kid's woman yelling at me, giving me water in a different cup. It deeply, I think, hurt me at a very deep level.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, so it was very emotional. This kid was my friend, and I'm not allowed into his home because of some historical fucking reason, right? It's quite fucking crazy, right? A point in time, this movie is running in my life, and that movie is governed by 6,000 years of history.
Yeah.
Right? So it really compels you to want to really understand this at a very fundamental level.
yeah, I just couldn't imagine 4 years old, like, oh, he's better than you because how he was born. And the kid isn't raised up as his parents did that thing. It's just like you said, it's passed down thousands of years. And you're 100% nailed it with that is the great analogy with how these people treat it. And obviously it's not all of them, but the whole Zionist worldview, and a lot of the Christians go along with it, like saying the Jews are better than us. To me,
Well,
that's
if you look, even in the Christian worldview, they created a fucked up version of Christianity, which was a white supremacy, and not everyone does it, manifest destiny.
Yeah.
This is how they were able to justify annihilating all the Indians. You see? So in order to annihilate people and to exploit people, the oppressor has to come up with some overarching ideology. So mentally they can brainwash themselves to say, oh yeah, these people are lesser than us, so they deserve to be subjugated and genocide. That's exactly what Israel is doing with the Palestinians. And now Israel and the US want to do this with the Iranians, the Persians.
Yeah, they're doing it with Lebanon right now too. What we're doing in Iran is sickening. It's an American, a very proud, patriotic American. It's sick to watch my country be the bad guy.
And I think, Jake, this is the interesting thing. You know, I did this tweet, and you know, if you watch my Twitter feed, and we should talk about this, how Elon Musk is actually all part of this, and Twitter and these guys, but I did a tweet yesterday which said, the Iranian government is run by medical doctors, PhDs, scientists, philosophers, engineers, which is just a plain fact.
Yeah.
And I said the United States regime is run by pedophiles, Zionists, spin doctors, PR people, talking heads, right? Pete Hegseth. That tweet normally would not go viral. But Twitter, X, Elon Musk made it go viral. So, because now with the capabilities of social media, you could take a tweet, shadow ban it, or you could do the inverse. It was inverse censorship. Make it pop up on all the magatars and bots. So they, like hound dogs, come and attack it. You see, and what they were doing was to use me as an example to say, if you fucking ever say anything like this will be the reaction. So, and then the next day, yesterday, Trump bombed the MIT of Iran, Sharif University, right, which is amazing scientists and engineers come out of that place. So this notion of superiority, right, subjugation, annihilation, is a brainwashing political ideology. And that's what Zionism is, that's what Nazism is, that's what...
We built a $49 garden hose nozzle that makes every pressure washer on the market completely unnecessary. Every pressure washer has the same fundamental flaw, and nobody was fixing it.
Oh,
you see
will you
pressure washers
shut
all rely
up,
on
Goy?
motors, engine.
The Brahmanism is, that's what manifest destiny was. And as an American, this country was not built. It had remnants of that. But what's fascinating, Jake, is I just did a book called Deportation Theater. And do you know, a lot of people don't know this, in 1676, when the white elites came here, the British elites, they also had other white working class people, settlers.
Yeah.
And you had the black slaves. Do you know in 1676, the black slaves and the white settlers got together against the ruling elites?
I never heard that.
Yeah, it was a massive revolution. And in response to that, the British came up with the divide and rule concept. They said, we can never have these fucking people ever getting together. And so they created a way that they said the white people are a little bit better. They gave the white settlers a little better accommodations, and they created racism. You see, racism is a technology. It's an innovation. And since that point, every immigrant that came in was treated lesser. So when the Irish came in, they called them all sorts of names. When the Italians came in, they called them all sorts of names. So what I argue in that book is that this whole approach has always been the exploiter figuring out some fucking ideology, innovating some shit to make the other masses among them divide them. White guy feels a little better than the black guy. The black guy feels a little better than the Native American. It's very engineered. So, and what they do, if you look at the whole deportation shit, oh, we got to get rid of the illegals. Do you know since 2000 to today, what percentage of illegal aliens have been deported? Do you know?
I have no idea. Probably.
What do you think it is? So I'll give you a number. There's 14 million illegal aliens right now in the United States. What percent have actually been deported each year?
Each year, like
Yeah.
5-10%. I don't know.
Maximum 4%.
Oh wow, so it's like nothing.
Okay? Yeah. So Obama was considered the deporter in chief. So he deported 3.7%. Trump has done around 2.5%. So what they do, Jake, is the billionaires, the elites, a lot of Zionists,
Yeah.
their goal is to make sure that the working class in the United States wages are suppressed. So what they do is every year, these billionaires always fund both sides,
Yep.
and they promote the immigration issue. Oh, the immigration is always a fucking issue, like abortion. But so they bring immigration as an issue. And what they do is, and I want to talk about this, they run a control system. So they're looking at this system and they're saying, fuck, we got to make sure the poor whites and the white working class, the poor blacks, the poor brown guys, all these people never get together. So what we're going to do is we're going to make those fucking people the enemy. Right? So they fund fighting illegal immigration. And what you find is Obama was actually deporter in chief. So he was funded to fight immigration, be strong, but he did it in a very quiet way. He deported 3.7%.
We don't know that. It's just he
Yeah, he deported 3.7%. Okay? And then they realized, let's bring the next guy in, Trump. Now, Trump did exactly what Obama did, even less, but he did it in a much more theatrical way, just tactical differences. Trump sends in ICE and Kristi Noem, whatever. Yeah. And so they sent him to fucking Minneapolis, which is only 96,000 illegal immigrants.
They knew that was a liberal place. They were just trying to make a show. That was such a obvious. Just they didn't want to deport anyone. They just wanted to cause a scene, make everyone throw a fit. That was ridiculous.
It was deportation
for cheering that on when they executed American citizens too.
That's right, man. They fucking executed these guys. Now, guess where the most number of illegal immigrants are? In Texas, Florida. If you combine the red state, Texas and Florida, there's close to 4 million illegal immigrants. And if you look at the United States economy, California, 50% of the farming is done by illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Construction, 40% of the construction in red Texas will implode without illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
65% of the hospitality in Florida, Disneyland, all that shit, illegal immigrants. So the billionaires know that the entire economy will tank without illegal immigrants. So what they do is they need illegal immigrants. They're never gonna, if they deported all 14 million, the United States would have a recession worse than 2008. So what they do is they just deport enough, 3%, create a big theater. The illegal immigrants all get scared, so they're willing to work for any wages, under any conditions. So they lower their wages. White workers are taught like they're better. Their wages get lowered, and these two groups never unite against their Zionist masters. So this is engineered, man.
No,
It's engineered.
well,
It's they're watching like a thermostat. Oops, people are getting pissed off. Let's blame those immigrants. Let's deport 3%. But it's no more than 3%.
well, you might know Martin Luther King got shot when he started talking about class instead of race. He started trying to come together all people. That's when they shot him.
Yeah, and Malcolm X was shot 2 weeks after he said, I believe there will ultimately be a clash between the oppressed and those who do the oppressing, but it will not be based on the color of the skin. As long as Malcolm was a black nationalist, he was a tool because he could be whitey versus a black guy.
they were both shot when they started talking about, like, I remember Malcolm maybe said a white man can be my brother, I realized, you know, it's his exact wording, but something along after going to Mecca, he's like, a white man was my brother. It's like,
Right.
you get shot.
Yeah. So, so the approach, I think, Jake, is I think we talked about this earlier. I'm into building a revolutionary movement, just like I've done everything else with my PhD and all other fields. But look, you know, I could never understand all the nuances of your field, you know, as a jujitsu guy, as a master,
Yeah.
or what any of these guys do, right?
Yeah.
I would look, like, I can't tell the between you and someone else.
Yeah,
but I know
exactly. Regular person, they have no idea what they're watching when they're watching like elite fighting or elite grappling. They have no clue. Like that's why there's certain fields like what you do. I'd have no clue. And a regular person does not understand the complexity of something like jiu-jitsu, just how insanely complex it is. And most top jiu-jitsu athletes have extremely high IQs.
Let me give you see this chart here? Well, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
See this chart?
Yeah.
Okay, this chart is an exploded pie chart. I'll describe. This was done. You know who did this chart in the 1800s? Florence Nightingale.
What is it? What does the chart show?
Well, I'll show you what the chart shows. It's hard to show it in this, but
Yeah, I can see it. I
the
can
chart
see what it says.
Yeah, the chart basically says diagram of causes of mortality in the Crimean War. So I'll come back to this. So what the expertise that I've had to develop for my own survival was system science. How large scale systems operate, Jake.
Real quick, I saw you do a video on systems a couple years ago. So it was so amazing. I can't remember exactly what it was. And like,
It's called Shatter the Swarm.
yeah, it was so good. I recommend everyone watch that.
Yeah, and that video, Jake, I just did it spontaneously with a pen and marker. I would say that video took me, I'm 62 now, it took me 60 years to do.
Yeah, but
I
I
would-
would on the spot, but you've been studying for 60 years.
Yes. So, you know, like, they can probably see you take down some guy, but no one knows all the effort you have to do to get to that
No,
point.
exactly. Like right now, I could walk and teach an amazing seminar without even thinking twice because it's so
Right.
system. But I spent my entire life studying this.
Yeah. So this diagram so system science is a foundational element, the theoretical base we need to create revolutionary change. So in my view, you need three elements to create revolution. Now Malcolm, and in fact the Black Panthers towards the late 60s, they went from being anti-war activists or civil rights people in their little boxes, which they like. The establishment likes to say, oh, you're an anti-war guy, stay in that box. Oh, you're a black nationalist, stay in that box. Oh, you're fighting for civil rights, Martin Luther King, you stay in that box. But when he left that box, they had all the shit on him. See, they had a lot more shit on Martin Luther King, some crazy shit he did, right? So but they couldn't bring anything out of Malcolm. So in the late 60s, these activists were trying to say, well, how the fuck do we actually change the system? Okay, is it just a race issue? Is it based on, they were thinking. In fact, Malcolm had read Lenin's State and Revolution, which is an amazing.
Just 22 days ago, I was wearing size XL and crying in front of the mirror. Today, I'm in a size M, all thanks to a pink salt recipe I saw in a 30-second
book. Everyone should read it, okay? Because State and Revolution. Lenin was the first guy who really looked at the state as a system. What is the state? Why does it exist? And why do you need to have revolution? Right? Why does it need to be dismantled? Now the problem was so anyway, the late 60s, people were actually starting to look at class issues. How do we build a bottoms-up movement? And that's when they started getting executed.
Yeah, there was a bunch
It's
of
long.
assassinations too.
Right, because they were starting to go down that track. Now my journey as a child growing up in 1963, coming to the United States in 1970, whatever that zeitgeist was, I was moved by all of this. And I realized that even many of the old revolutionary, you can look at all of them, left and right. You can look at whether it's Lenin or Che Guevara on the left, or you can look at Thomas Paine or the founding fathers, even all different philosophies. The people who came up with these ideas about revolutionary change, Jake, were not engineers or scientists. They were philosophers. They were like looking at the world, and there's some ways they were making up shit. They were lawyers, right? But engineers, we have to deal with natural laws. Like I work on a reactor, I have to deal with natural laws. A plumber has to deal with natural shit. Like
Yeah.
You can't just come up with theories sitting on it and smoking
I'm
like
a fighter. I can relate. You see what works and you see what doesn't.
Exactly. So you have to deal with enough of the laws. You have to deal with the reality, and then from that reality, you distill down laws. Oh, force equals mass times acceleration. That's a law. E equals mc squared. The laws of magnetism. You know, we have our iPhones. This is powered by deep knowledge of electromagnetism, which a guy called Faraday really helped do. So the engineers have been left out of the equation of political discussion when they're the ones who actually have to look at complex systems. So in 1957, there was a field that came up in science called system science. And it realized that we're not just building a mouse, we're not just building, making a little scissor. We're building complex systems, nuclear reactors, transportation systems, healthcare systems. What is the science governing systems? So the reason I shared this diagram is that Florence Nightingale was brought up to the Crimean War, where I think the Prussians and the French are killing each other, or so the British and the French. And people are dying on the battlefield. And, well, actually, people thought they were dying on the battlefield. And she comes in, and by the way, if we read in grade school, she's always presented as some nurse. Oh, Florence Nightingale, and he writes she was a nurse. But Florence Nightingale was a member of the Royal Society of Statistics. She was a serious data analyst, and she saw that people were dying when they came into the hospitals. Because in the 1800s, you went to a hospital to fucking die.
Yeah.
And they were the filthiest places.
Somewhat today still.
Exactly. Yes, about 4 out of 7. But Florence Nightingale had to convince the nobility of her time that we need to build hospitals. We need to do research. This was a new concept. So that graph I showed you, she tracked with each little slice of the pie chart how many people were dying on the battlefield versus in the hospitals. That's what the graph, it's called a spider chart. Each slice is a different part of the year of the battle. And she noticed the blue areas are people dying on actually the battlefield. In the hospitals.
Thanks for watching Fight Back Podcast. If you like the show, like, subscribe, or share the video. There's also donation links in the descriptions. All right, quick break to talk about something I've just started using, Rumble Wallet. If you've ever been curious about buying and investing in
Hospitals, you had literally shit all over the floor, feces. You had no sewage. It was a breeding ground. So she said, let's bring in nurses. Let's clean bed sheets. Let's do laundry. All this kind of basic shit.
Yeah.
And she was really the creator of the modern Western healthcare system. In the sense, then you had medical research. But the interesting thing is the Western medical system comes from that moment in time to fix the soldier to put them on the battlefield. You see? It was a crisis management system, albeit
you backsliding as quick as possible.
Exactly. You fall on the job, get you back to work, which means workers' compensation demands that you follow A, B, C, and D. You don't do any alternative therapies. You fall, you're gonna have to take prednisone, you're gonna have to do this drug, doesn't matter if it causes side effects. So the goal is to put the soldier back on the battlefield and never worry about preventative care. Because we don't care about that, we wait for it, right? Right. So she was a system scientist who looked at this very complex system, and she was able to see within that what the real issue was. The root cause was you had a medical care system which was shitty. There was no hospital system. So this approach of system science said you look at a complex system and you try to find root cause.
Yeah.
And I used to teach this at MIT, and I ended up figuring out a way to teach anyone. There are 9 principles of system science in that video, Shatter the Swarm, you see it. Now, I used to teach 55 kids, graduate students a year. Great, ego thing, you're teaching great people, etc. But I realized ordinary people needed to learn that, Jake.
Yeah.
You see? And me sitting at MIT teaching that wasn't that interesting anymore, because it was a bunch of very elite kids, a lot of, spoiled kids in many
I
ways.
think they know it all.
Exactly. So I decided that it was important to teach system science to everyone. So that was one feature of it, that you have to have the right theory. I realized that while Malcolm X and even Lenin or even Thomas Paine or the founders had a view of the world, they didn't have knowledge of system science. So they were right in certain ways, but they weren't right on the money. You go through iterations.
Yeah, just
So-
learn how to critically think and put it all together. It's what was shocking to me, like during COVID, I realized most doctors and scientists, they just repeat what they're told. They're not actually looking at the data themselves and processing it. That was shocking to me.
Well, in March, so this is what I'm saying, Jake. In 2020, I was the first scientist in January of 2020 who said this is a fraud,
Yeah.
and we started the Fire Fauci campaign. In March of 2020,
That's
I wrote a
first
letter.
That's why I first got into politics during COVID, because it was so obviously to me that it was just a scam and it wasn't very serious. And it's like I could just see it. I was actually looking at the data, and people were telling me I'm not a doctor, I can't look at the data. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so the goal was, Jake, at that point, the data is clear, but then you need to put it into a framework so people can understand it. So if you look at the early video I did in late 2019, I said, it's not pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine. It's about the immune system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did a bunch of videos teaching people what the immune system was. Again, it's
That's
system
the most important one, having a good immune system. That's why I wasn't scared of COVID, because I know I have a good immune system.
Yeah, and as a
We're
part
all
of
the
that,
same.
we taught people what the immune system was. You see, the entire vaccine-only model was based on an idea of the immune system that went back to 1920. In the 1920s, they had a two-box model of the immune system. Your body gets infected, and immediately your body reacts with a bunch of marines that are called macrophages, try to take out the thing. And if they fail, then it goes to your adaptive immune system, which creates, as you said earlier, antibodies. Okay? So that two-box model of the immune system existed all the way until now, which says, oh, in order to stop an infection, we're going to give you the infection ahead of time, you create some antibodies, and it stops it. Okay? But in the 1960s, we realized there's a third box to the immune system, which is called the interferon system. There's a fourth box, the gut microbiome, the vagus nerve. So there's all these other master systems which tell you that if you do an intervention and you're subverting this, it's going to create other side effects. So the entire model of the vaccine model, I'm not pro or anti-vax, is based on
I was going to ask you that, but you just answered it. Because I'm still trying to study that out too. I was majorly anti-COVID vax, but I don't have a strong opinion on overall vaxes. I think they give way too many, but...
Well, yeah. So what you're doing with the vaccine, in the early days, the Chinese, for example, if someone had smallpox, they would get the smallpox sputum, dry it, and shoot it up into people's nose.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
This is the garden hose nozzle my team spent 3 years building because every pressure washer on the market kept letting people down. Every pressure washer has the same fundamental flaw, and nobody was fixing it.
So that was quote unquote immunization.
Yeah.
Farmer, if one horse in a village had some disease, they'd put a bag over its head, get it to sneeze, and give it to all the others. Now, they did this because they didn't want to have different horses getting infections at different times. So the notion of taking some shit you have and giving it to me has existed for thousands of years. What happened with vaccinations was, instead of giving, like me sneezing on you, sort of, not to be disgusting, right? They said, let me just take the active component out of that, the quote unquote virus, and inject it, but it didn't work that well. So then they started having to re-simulate that by adding mercury and all this other shit.
And that's where the
Okay.
vax come in.
Right.
I guess it's a lot different taking the actual virus versus mercury. That's a great point.
Right. So when you got measles, I remember getting chickenpox. Everyone went and got chickenpox, right? So the concept of being exposed, you get punched, right? You go lift weights. It's called stress inoculation.
In your body, yeah.
Right. You don't want to overdo it, but if you get enough stress inoculation from a bodybuilding standpoint, if you go 6 days a week, you fuck your body up, you tear down muscle. But if you do 3 to 4 days, and then you come off, you're inoculating your system. So that same concept goes for immunization. Now, what COVID was a fucking thing, and I have my PhDs in biological engineering. My former advisor, Bob Langer, was the one who created COVID. He became very, very greedy. He created the mRNA vaccine. Okay, he's one of the early.
So they just wanted to make insane amounts of money, and they did.
And it's untested, because when you inject the mRNA, which creates the protein, the mRNA can actually go back into your DNA. And there were multiple papers which showed this. So from a systems perspective, we said, look, it's not pro or anti-vax,
Yeah.
because Booby fucking Kennedy is out there talking his shit, because he's trying to get the anti-vax crowd, right?
But
And-
he doesn't understand it that well. You can tell.
Well, he's an opportunist. I know him well. I did a movie with him years ago on GMOs, okay, with Pierce Brosnan funded and Keely Brosnan. But Booby is a guy who's, the way the Kennedys work is they're trying to inject themselves into the political atmosphere, and they like create a theater for themselves. Oh, we're for this. So Booby was a heroin addict, and he took over a women's organization that did water keepers. So he goes in and finds people who are genuinely building movements, and he hijacks them. And you can read about it.
Names to steal their movements, basically. Take credit.
Steal movements and fuck them up.
That's dirty.
Yeah, he's what we call the not so obvious establishment. So in 2019, we were doing protests in New Jersey against, because I'm from Jersey originally, and Booby would come in at the end and say something and leave. And I said, this guy's full of shit. And I was initially ostracized by the medical freedom movement. Oh, why don't you work with Bobby? I said, look, he's not your friend. And now people know that. But when you take a systems perspective, you don't get involved in the dialectics pro and anti-vax, left or right. Because those that make
the
not
left right thing is distraction, I realize. Like, wait, that's just to keep us fighting. Communist, capitalist. It's like, it's these words, like, what do they even mean? What does left, right even mean? It changes constantly.
Yeah, so I think the opportunity we have, Jake, is the movement that we have created is more of an infrastructure. I don't call it a movement. It's like, you plug into an infrastructure. So over the last 60 years, the infrastructure we've created is, I realize you have to teach everyday people the knowledge of how systems work. Mm-hmm. That's why that Shadow the Storm video is so powerful, because you can teach that. No, and hopefully it invites people. Yeah, so but I can teach you, Jake, system science, right?
Yeah, they don't really teach that, like you said. It's like schools.
No.
They focus on, but that is so important, understanding these systems and stuff and how things actually work and be able to put these complex things in real world. And most people can't do that at all.
Everything that we have today runs on engineering system science. It's a very specific field, Jake. It's called control systems theory. It was developed at MIT, and systems theory has 9 principles. It's how your thermostat works in your home. You set it to 68, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
There's a thermostat, which is a sensor. It's watching changes in the temperature. It sends inputs to your furnace, which is a conversion vehicle, which creates, there's 9 principles. I don't want to go into, but system science is a very powerful technology. The elites took over system science and they understand it. The assholes at Palantir, Peter Thiel, the engineering departments at MIT advised the government to use system science to control the masses. So they have data on every fucking tweet we do.
Yep.
When they put me back on Twitter, they knew, because we filed a lawsuit that exposed the entire backdoor portal, we can't put this guy off, but we'll put him on, but we'll put him in a cage. So what they can do is they can set a goal. We want to keep Jake in this box.
Yeah.
Okay? They have the Palantir data coming to them saying who's watching your tweets, who's tracking you.
Yeah.
And they can change the inputs as to whose feeds you appear and who you don't. So this is basically one-to-one censorship now.
Yeah, they know so much about us too. We both have high kill scores, I bet, because Palantir gives kill scores to people in Palestine.
Yep. So they have, but I'm saying they're using control system science. So I felt if we're going to ever build a movement, if we don't know system science, you're fucked. Because the enemy's got a fucking nuclear weapon and we have sticks and stones. So the number one, there's 3 pillars we need for revolutionary change. The knowledge of system science.
Yeah.
Number 2, you need an organization, a structure, and it has to be global. It can't be in the United States anymore. It has to be global.
I think you're right.
And it has to be made of working people, not Nepo babies like Jared Kushner. People come bottoms up who contribute something. So over the last 10 years, we built that infrastructure. 500,000 people from all walks of life were trained on system science. And the third piece, it has to be actual offline action. Educating people, delivering solutions.
We've done a lot of that, and that is important too. You have to wake people up first. That is an important step, but now we need to start going to the next steps.
Right. So the exposing is not sufficient in and of itself. So I feel like history is coming together. Truth, Freedom, Health. We've created this infrastructure, so people don't have to do what Malcolm did and get shot and waste 5 years of their life. So we're at a very critical point.
Yeah.
On how we accelerate this.
We need to do it fast, I think, because they have systems in place against us. They're highly organized. They have all these systems to deplatform us, get us fired, try to destroy people's lives, and they collect information through Palantir. they're so highly organized as Zionists, which is why they do well. Look how many organizations they have, all the ADL, the APAC, there's hundreds of them. They have all the systems everywhere. And that's why they're winning, but the people are turning, so now when you put the systems together, which is great, sounds like they're doing that.
Yeah, so Jake, in system science, one of the things you learn, there's 9 principles, one of them is called a disturbance. So if you're trying to achieve your goal to be the greatest martial artist, so I'm trying to achieve my goal to solve a problem, disturbances come. You call distractions, hey, let's go get drunk, right? That's a distraction, right? Or, Jake, you don't need to work that hard, right? Look at me, I'm blah, blah, right? So the universe presents you with disturbances to take you off your goal. Okay, in applying system science theory to political movements, what you realize, the greatest danger, the greatest fucking enemy of a movement that wants to achieve truth, freedom, health, is not the obvious establishment, the obvious scumbags like the George Soroses, or whoever it is, the Hillary Clintons, or that's easy. It is a not so obvious establishment, and those are like Booby Kennedy.
Yes.
And those went to
I felt for him. I had friends that were big fans, and I was friends with Tulsi Gabbard. I felt for her. It's like,
right, but what you realize is, that's what I'm saying, we can't afford to get disappointed and make fucking mistakes. Like, people have reach promoting these fucking people, unless they're part of them, because that's a different issue we'll talk about. But what's happened is, when you study system science, one of the principles, like you have principles in your martial arts, right? Like you don't fucking do that. Is you realize, wait a minute, that person, how can they be an enemy of the state and a true fighter if they're fucking promoted everywhere?
Yeah.
Right? Like Ruby Kennedy, his entire fucking life, he gets into Harvard by putting his name on the application. He's a fucking drug dealer most of his life.
There's one simple pepper trick that anyone can do at home to relieve nerve pain. I've never admitted this publicly, but I was preparing to put my wife in nursing.
Fuck off,
I couldn't
going.
believe that in just one.
Okay?
I never felt for him, but a lot of people I know did.
But what I'm saying is, if you have this understanding that we want to build our movement in this way, bringing in bottoms-up, hardworking people, they are going to try to distract us to the not-so-obvious establishment. I mean, Easter just finished, right? I did a video a long time ago, who actually crucified Christ? It wasn't the Romans.
Yeah.
It was the Sadducees and the Pharisees, who were like the Tulsi Gabbards and the Booby of their time. They spoke about God. They were the learned Jewish people. They're the ones who fucked him over. So it is, and if you look at Malcolm's life, right? Or any of these great revolutionaries, it takes a while to get really tuned in. You have to build not an intuition, but a scientific understanding of the opportunists versus the true revolutionaries. Who has consistently, over 40 years, said the right thing? Who said the right thing during COVID? Who said the right thing here?
Yeah.
Who always, and if you look at, this is not to talk about me personally, because I applied system science, we ran the Fire Fauci campaign in March of 2020. We wrote to Trump, do not fucking do lockdowns, here's the reason. Election integrity, we're the ones who expose the fact that they can flip votes on the backdoor. We're the ones who discovered the backdoor portal into Twitter. Like, I wrote a whole piece exposing Elon Musk. Where Elon Musk begins, where government ends, nobody knows.
I think you're pretty much right about everything that I saw, and I agreed with you almost.
Every fucking thing.
I agreed with you early, and then you've been right. Saying I keep getting things right, people will be mad at us, then they switch and be like, oh wait, you had it right.
But where I'm at is, my goal as someone who studied this is to make sure we have other masters. It can't just be me. So that's where
it needs to be a whole team and network. It needs to be not
But
about
they need to go through the training, Jake. It's like if you tell me, hey, we need ninja masters, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna fall at your fucking feet.
And it's gonna take a long time of hard studying. Like when I was winning world titles, my entire life was studying. I wouldn't go to friends' weddings about a fight coming up, just part of anything. It's like no, you have to just be focused on a mission. That's the only way to accomplish big things. And you need a team. Even in fighting, you're out there alone, but you need a team to help you do it.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happened, Jake. So Iran has 5 times more engineers per capita than the United States does. They produce 230,000 engineers per year.
You saw that. Was that your tweet? That might have been you. I just saw. Yeah, I just saw that. I was like, wow, that's 5 times as many.
Per capita.
Yeah, per capita.
Per capita.
So they're really smart people, like the Persians. They treat like they're these filthy backward people. It's like, no, they're like extremely smart, civilized people.
We produce 35 times more podcasters than they do. or social media influencers. So the issue is, if you know, I mean, people who've mastered something, they value other mastery. They go, shit,
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah, people-
Yeah, I was truly great at fighting, and I understand that someone's truly great at something. The sacrifices is absolutely like you said. You were master something, so you understand that. Oh, that's not easy. People that don't understand
Yeah,
fighting
I
just
think
keep punching each other.
Yeah, so I think to people listening to this, I'm glad we did this, Jake, because I've been basically focused on building these solutions, building the infrastructure, educating every Thursdays. You know, it's a whole day. We train people in Europe and we train people here, but we've now created this great infrastructure. But it's important, guys like you, guys like Bill Zarian, guys like Jose
All the right. I
Alderete.
think you and Dan would actually be good. Get you guys talking. 'Cause he's running for office, and
Yeah.
I know he's not full of shit.
But I want to, like, I give you an example. Kanye called me up. You know this guy Kanye West, about 3 years ago. And Kanye's like, oh, blah, 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 Dr. Shiva, I heard. And I said, Kanye, you need to, because he wanted to run for president. So yeah, I said, Kanye, you need to get fucking trained, man. You're saying a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But why don't, I said, you would be a force to be reckoned with if you actually got some underpinnings.
Yeah.
I said, okay, Dr. Shiva, I'm going to come there. I'm going to get my private plane. I'll be there tomorrow. So we had everything set up. He doesn't show up. Nick fucking Fuentes told him not to come. Okay?
That sucks.
You see what I'm saying? And Fuentes now, because he has no fucking theory, is telling people on Alex Jones' show to go vote for Democrats. So that's a form of enslavement. We need to build a bottoms-up movement. And if you don't know how to do it, Nick, don't be an asshole, get fucking trained. Okay? So
Yeah,
this,
Nick, I mean, we're friends. We've had our differences over long. You know, some things
Yeah.
I agree with him. There's been things we fought over, but I mean, he is really smart in a lot of things. But
I'm saying he doesn't know how to
go
go.
with you. I don't like that.
No, but I'm saying he told Kanye. And Kanye was at a point in his life where he was starting to talk about these things, you see? So what happens is the establishment creates, somehow people bumble into, hey, things are fucked up, okay? So this is what happens. People come to a point in their life, hey, I don't like the way the fucking world is.
Yeah.
And what the establishment does, it only gives them two options. Run
They
for
both
office.
suck.
Well, run for office.
Oh, yeah.
No, broadly, run for office or become a lawyer. Legalism or electoralism. They do not want to teach people the history of human change was revolutionary movements. And the United States, Jake, what we teach is that in the late 1800s and early 1900s, it was in the United States, independent of quote unquote Russia, workers' movements developed here. Blacks, whites, brown people united here. And by the late 1920s, those movements scared the shit out of the elites. And it is because of those movements we have the 8-hour workday. It is because of those movements we ended up getting, public infrastructure. It wasn't like Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was a racist piece of shit.
Like Henry Ford did a lot, in the assembly line. The Ford, didn't he do the 40-hour?
Or he was an inventor, you'd say. He created stuff. So it was bottoms-up movements, and these were emerging by working people. In the 1950s, the McCarthy era comes, and they have to brand all these movements as communist, led by Russia. And that's what they did, and they annihilated many of these bottoms-up movements. By the 1970s, all of these movements were taken over by the Democratic Party, and Wall Street took, so the right and left came to an accommodation. If you look at the data, between 1900 and 1970, Jake, the GDP of the United States grew explosively.
Yeah.
Everyone's wages went up. The poorest people to the wealthiest. And there were close to 11,000 strikes in the United States. 250 million people took to the streets. We had a strong, powerful, militant working class. After 1970, these movements were taken over by the Kennedys and the Bernie Sanders and the AOC types. So they were given the task of telling people, we will take care of it for you.
And then they just
You don't have to build a fucking
don't
movement.
actually change.
Yeah, we'll do it, right? So what they did was to consciously subvert bottoms-up movements. And then they created learned helplessness. Oh, well, see, you can't, see, Bernie tried, but you really can't do it. So between 1970 till today, if you look at the economics, GDP has grown, but the first two income quartiles, their wages have gone down. And if you add all those wages, it's $47 trillion. So they deliberately, and this is a key thing, they deliberately made sure we did not build bottoms-up movements, that we outsourced our stuff to a fucking Tulsi Gabbard, who, if you read it, she's a fucking warmonger. She was on CFR. She's PSYOP for the National Guard, right?
Yeah,
This
exactly.
woman,
She wasn't, but she's pushing
No, but
and more. It's like,
dude, but if you looked at the facts, she was for bombing the Palestinians. She's fucking a Zionist hoodlum. She's part of a Hindu cult, which believes Brahmanism, right? So, but they talk all the sweet shit. Where's a fucking flower? You know, they have their shit.
with RFK, you know, he's pro-Israel, killing children. That's just sick to me. That, you know, he clearly changes. He's anti-war. They ask Israel. He starts like stuttering, making excuses. It's like, you're sick. Anyone that supports killing kids out there, I don't support it all in any way.
But Jake, my point is these people never change. They were always
They were deliberately, they're put there to take over the movement, to hijack the movement.
and they create a farm league of these people. So they have AOC, they have Mamdani now in New York. I mean, he's meeting with Trump. He and his mother was probably banging Epstein. All these people. But dude, once you understand system science, you're not fucking fooled anymore. That's why I was able to call these out so consistently. We know Elon Musk is part of the establishment. Okay?
Yeah, like it's disappointing because I'm brand new to politics. I didn't follow politics at all.
Yeah.
I didn't own a TV because I was focused on winning a world title. I started following politics I guess like 6 years ago now, and it's just I got fooled a few times, and it's embarrassing when you like trust. Like I voted for Trump the first term. Like I thought, Elon Musk.
And reverse cases of memory loss as if you're clearing your brain.
Dr. Scott, if someone is suffering from Alzheimer's, should they take Aricept, Exelon, Razodine, or Namenda?
Whoa.
That's the good guys, or there's other total frauds.
So Jake, you have, because of your training in other fields, you have an intuitive sense of shit. If you learn the mechanics, you see,
Yeah.
I hope this inspires you to want to learn the
No, I
mechanics.
definitely do. 'Cause I think
As you
naturally
learn
I get a lot of
mechanics-
things right naturally, but probably intuition for fighting.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you could be a naturally good fighter. It's like Nolan Ryan, I used to play baseball.
Yeah.
If you go look at his career, he used to just throw the fucking ball fast and he'd strike people out. But then he'd also throw it and fucking hit people in the head.
Yeah.
Then he got one good coach, he gave him a little bit of training, and then he became great.
Yeah.
So my view is we need to create 1,000 Malcolm X's.
That's what I definitely want to learn. Like I want to get a lot better. Like
Yeah.
I said, I think I'm naturally good at that type of stuff, but I want to have a system to get it because I understand to get truly good at anything takes work and understanding.
Yeah, and once we create those 1,000 people, from a systems dynamic perspective, it's going to crystallize into a wave of consciousness that you don't have to dictate this is how the world has to be centralized planning, which is what the old communist model was. So what I'm talking about, raising people's consciousness to understand how systems work. And once that consciousness raises, it's called an emergent property. It's not for me to be a leader of a movement.
Yeah.
You see, I'm a catalyst who was fortunate to learn this shit. And my job is to make sure that that knowledge gets disseminated. And if that happens, consciousness raises.
Yeah, we all do better. You know, it's not about one person, like you said. It's about us all doing better, all working together, making our country better, and caring about our countrymen a little bit. And like we care about that. Yeah, like even I was in Vietnam, a so-called communist country, and you were like,
Yeah.
well, they're more prideful for us. And I could just tell they were booming. So I looked up their GDP. It's growing like 8.6% a year. Not that that's the most important thing, but it just shows you they're thriving right now. They're proud. They're making beautiful buildings. It's like they have a pride. We've lost that in America. We need to get that. We need to get that back. And we need some kind of like common thing that we're all striving for. I think we can build that. We can
The swarm, I call it, engineers this. I'm running for Senate, so I went out to dinner with a friend of mine who's from Texas. He's up here, and he said, "Hey, can you go out with my son and his partner?" So went out, and his son is so he says, "Oh, you're running for Senate. It's really impossible to win." This guy's a chemist. Okay, he's a nice kid, little nerdly chemist, and I said, and there's a very interesting chemical process called a Haber process. It's how we fixated nitrogen to make fertilizer, bombs. And his name is Josh. I said, "Josh, you just talked to me about the Haber process. That was impossible, wasn't it?" I said, "The way your attitude is, you would have probably told Fritz Haber, don't do this, it's impossible."
Yeah.
I said, the reality is there's a physics, there's a science to changing the world, and I've uncovered that. That's what my life has been about. And the reality is that you have been manipulated to not do anything. Now, he's 20 years old. He went to UMass, a liberal institute. Now, what was interesting, Jake, was this kid could tell me everything about workers' movements. He said, "Oh yeah, the workers built these movements, da-da-da."
He did, he did do it.
So the lefties out there get these young kids and they teach them how fucked up the world is, right? But then they demoralize them and tell them, you can't really do anything. You got to vote for Bernie Sanders or AOC. So they drive them to the NSOEs. You see what I'm saying?
You know, I always think get that because both in several aspects of my life, but when I started fighting, I was like, you can't do that. You can't. When I successful career, then I started a podcast. I'm like, I want to make change in the world. And obviously, I haven't made the change yet, but I believe we can, or I wouldn't be speaking up. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think we could change things. But now, like you said, we put the system together is where we need to go. And running for office, that's one aspect. Like, you know, like we need to get all the guys that are running together too, like Dan Bilzerian. There's a bunch of guys that are running. Doesn't need to be agree on everything, but I think the important thing right now is getting the Zionist occupied government taken out, and then we can worry about the other stuff.
Yeah, and I think educating a broad mass of people what is Zionism, that it has nothing to do with Christianity. That most Zionists are not Jews. You know, 80% of them are Christians and Muslims. There's a lot of
That's so insane. That's like I've noticed that like all these countries are fighting alongside Israel.
Right.
It's like I guess they have an alliance too.
I think we have a big opportunity, Jake. So remember I said there's two vehicles that people are, like a young kid who says the world's fucked up. He said, oh, run for office.
Yeah.
Or become a lawyer. I'm not saying don't do that.
You have to do that too. That's one aspect. What are the other aspects you think that are important?
Well, what I'm saying is do that as a part of the larger strategy to build the movement to dismantle all this shit, to do a systems upgrade.
Yeah.
Okay? What I'm saying is most people are running on if you have your iPhone, you upgrade your OS.
Yeah.
The world is running on an old OS.
Yes.
We need to upgrade it to a new operating system. And we need to inspire people to take responsibility to be good citizens. Like, the world's not going to change because of fucking Booby Kennedy. I have to do some shit. So what we're doing with our campaign, I'll tell you what we're doing. So my view is, I never believed in electoral politics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always built bottoms-up movements. You can look at my history. I ran the biggest thing against U.S. out of Iraq and all this shit, massive demonstrations. But I realized that if you're building a movement and you run for office or file a lawsuit, not with the end goal of winning the office seat or thinking you're going to win the lawsuit in a corrupt system, but to advance the movement. Yeah. So when we ran against Elizabeth Warren in 2018, I openly said this. I said, we know that we can't beat these fucking corrupt people, but we were the ones who came up with a great slogan, only the real Indian can defeat the fake Indian. We forced her to take the DNA test. But it was not about her, it was about exposing the lack of integrity.
Yeah.
We got about 150,000 votes with 7 volunteers.
Oh, nice.
Okay? Then in 2020, I decided I'd run as a Republican. And we ran there, we had 3,000 volunteers, Jake.
Wow.
You couldn't leave a sign without seeing Dr. Shiva in Massachusetts. And I ran in the Republican primary. The Republicans ran a guy against me because it was the establishment Republicans. On election night on September 2020, everyone said Dr. Shiva was going to win on a landslide. In the 9 counties in Massachusetts, one of the counties, we win by 10 points, which is where all the ballots are hand counted, paper ballots. In every other fucking county, we lose 60-40, 60-40, 60-40. That's when I put on my MIT hat. I looked at the manuals, and in the manuals is a feature called a weighted race feature, where if you got 1,000 votes, Jake, and I got 1,000, they can multiply your votes by 2 and mine by 0.5. Because these voting machines were created for condo. You know, if you live in a condominium, you know, like where people get shares of votes, let's say you get 2 votes to my 1 because you own double the size of the apartment.
Places twice as interesting. Yeah,
Right.
It makes no sense. There's not paper trail. I don't get how they don't have paper trail.
Well, when you take a ballot, so basically the weighted race feature is what I uncovered. And I did a bunch of videos on that. And then I uncovered that when a ballot goes through the machine, a picture gets taken. It's called a ballot image. And according to a law that was passed 50 years ago, 52 USC 20701, all data in connection with the federal election is supposed to be preserved for 22 months. So I knew I fucking won that election, man. So I went to the Secretary of State's office, one of my volunteers with a video, and we said, where are the ballot images? They go, we deleted them.
What?
Yes.
It's illegal, right?
Put on video. Yep. So I tweeted out, Massachusetts deleted 1.7 million ballot images. That fucking tweet starts going viral. This is in September of 2020. I get thrown off Twitter within minutes of that going viral.
Oh, they said that's when they said misinformation on election.
Exactly.
Wow.
So then I file a lawsuit. We moved our campaign to a write-in campaign. And in that lawsuit, this is way before fucking the NSOE version of the Twitter files, which is stealing our shit. Okay, 2 years before, October 2020, no lawyer wanted to do this when they sued the government. I did it myself, Jake. I'm not a lawyer. I learned federal statutes. It was me against 7 Harvard-trained lawyers. And we exposed in federal court that the government, we brought the social media director, she fucking spilled the beans. She goes, yes, we have a backdoor portal into Twitter. And we silenced Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. It's all in courtroom testimony.
Wow.
Okay? So this was, and I wrote to Fucker Carlson. Okay? I called him Fucker at this point because, sorry, Fucker, if you have knee pain, watch this.
Dude, stop running like that. Your knees are doomed.
Nah, man, they've never felt better.
What? You could barely walk upstairs last month.
I found something
Fuck
new. Pain's
off,
basically
Goy.
gone.
Yeah.
And I have all the emails. I said, you got to cover this. And the judge ruled in my favor. Wrote to Glenn Greenwald. And these guys did jack shit. This is the most important lawsuit.
Pay attention.
Temporary. What's that?
So none of those guys responded or paid attention to like.
Nope. I have all that. You can go to winbackfreedom.com. Everything's documented.
Yeah, that's I'm interested. I want to look through that. Yeah, because the elections, we should be able to track them and make sure everything's legit. I don't trust
So
these.
what I'm saying is, these guys who claim that they're journalists, they delayed the truth. Fucker Carlson waited 2 years. They ain't even talked about shit. Okay? And this is what I'm saying. Delayed truth is deadly. Don't be a fucking grifter. And that it's a very important thing to understand that what people are monetizing messaging. You sit, they watch which way the puck was moving.
So many guys are just waiting. That pisses me off so bad when they're waiting to see what
Because
side
they can make money on it.
That
Look at Tucker Carlson. He started at CNN. He made money being a liberal. Then he went to Fox. Then he went to TCN. There is data that I can tell you, oh, Zionist cocksucker is a good thing. I may not know shit. Let me start talking about that.
He was long before he was speaking up the issue too, because I remember running into him and talking about it. I don't want to bash the guy, but he was well aware of what was happening because I was DA on it already.
I had to bash him, not to bash him on a personal level, but as an educational vehicle to say, this guy's not going to be your fucking leader. Revolutionary leaders are not going to come from fathers who were former CIA people, invasion of America. They're going to come from guys like me and you, bottoms up.
Knock it down. Yeah, like most people aren't willing to push the boundaries, but someone has to do it. That's what everyone's. When I first started speaking up on a bunch of issues, COVID, the Zionist stuff, you can't make change, and it's like someone has to do it. Like people just don't believe they can win, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah. So so in some ways, Jake, these big guys exposing all this stuff to the average person, you know what's doing to them? Deep in their subconscious, wow, that's really fucked up. That's really fucked up. I can't do much. It's creating learned helplessness, which is a CIA technique.
When people say you can't make change, you can't.
But I'm saying it's a CIA technique. The CIA created in the 1960s with animal experiments how to inject hopelessness into people.
Yeah.
So that's why exposing shit, first you got to expose it at the right time when it matters. Exposing stuff for entertainment. Now Fucker Carlson's talking about 9/11. Well, he was denouncing those people when the shit was taking place.
Right.
So what I'm saying is these people, so my point is we as people who really love this country or working people, why the fuck are we looking to them for our leadership? And he's getting the guy who funds him is a very wealthy Iranian guy, okay? Who's anti what's going on over there. So my point is where they're being funded from, are they really wanting to build a movement? Do they actually support that? But in the case of Fucker Carlson, in my case, he knew all this shit.
Yeah.
And he intentionally suppressed it. And I'll tell you why, because I'm not in the left or right camp. Giving views to me, this is a big thing, right? Views and clicks would create my brand equity. And no, I'm not controlled by anyone, you see?
Yeah.
So that's dangerous. I don't get invited to the White House.
Yeah.
Right? By Trump. I mean, I've met with Trump twice. Well, I met with Trump twice, but my point is, so our movement, Shiva for Senate, is a unique campaign. Our slogan is seize your future. I am running, but unlike my last two campaigns, our point is, I'm a great fucking product, but it's not about me. You get on the ground and go get 10 people to vote for us. So we want to make people nodes where they have the capacity to say, oh, let me talk about these politics. So it can't be this top down, you raise 50 million and then you put lawn signs up, which was what we didn't raise 50 million, we raised 2 million. That's never going to work. We can never win on their battleground. It has to be bottoms up.
I think
Bottoms up, bottoms up, bottoms up.
Yeah, because they have the system in play already. They know how to run. They have the packs. They know how to raise the
All
money.
that, like we can compete with that.
Yeah, I was looking at running and like, oh wow, this is like highly organized. You need millions of dollars. It's like they have a whole system to take you out.
Right. So it has to be like they're running on a set of principles because their goal from a systems standpoint is maximize power, profit, control. I call our movement truth, freedom, health. We want to maximize truth, freedom, and health. Now, if you're going to do that, you can't use their methodologies because their methodologies were optimized for them. It's a different machine. We have to develop a completely new paradigm, bottoms up, responsibility on the individual. There is no fucking Messiah. There's no one's coming to, you see, it's a different model.
And no one's coming to save us, so we have to save ourselves.
Save yourself. So this is a celebrity-driven model, right? Plastic surgery, celebrities, that shit. And even the No Kings thing, right? That was top down.
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen coming in, Jane Fonda, right? And that is going to be a vehicle to corral people to the left wing of the Democratic Party. Same thing, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. So they have this engineered. They have this engineered to a fucking
It's brilliant, and it's wickedly brilliant. The left, right, Democrat, Republican, and nothing changed. Oh, we can argue about trannies. Not that stuff doesn't matter, but they keep you. Well, a good example is Occupy Wall Street. That's when they started pushing racism.
Yep.
You can let's go to Black Lives Matter instead. We don't want to talk about the Wall Street.
So there is racism, Jake, but
Yeah,
what they
for
do
sure.
is they use racism not to solve racism. They want to maintain racism.
They want it worse.
They want it worse. They want black people hating white people. That's their goal. They do not want blacks and whites uniting on a class situation against the real oppressor, right? Which is a swarm of a few set of people. As long as Black Lives Matter exists and doesn't
more racism. BLM.
That's right.
Really drove racism. That's what they're trying to do.
Right. That's why Malcolm's transition was so profound, right? But he came bottoms up, man.
Yeah, they were fine with him when he was, not that he didn't have real issues at the time, but they were fine with him with the racial divide. So
Right.
he started talking
Right.
about the class, same with Martin Luther, they both got shot. I don't think it was a coincidence.
Yeah, so I think I'm really excited because to me it's been a life journey, Jake. On the health side, my PhD's in the field calls systems biology. So systems science is so cool, man. You can apply it to everything. So after I finished my PhD, I took 2 years and I went to India to study the traditional systems of medicine, which are about 6,000, 10,000 years old.
Yeah.
And what I uncovered was they have a whole language that they look at your body. They don't talk in cells and molecules and genes. They talk in 3 terms: movement of information, matter and energy, called Vata; conversion of information, matter and energy; and then the vessel that contains. Anyway, I was able to decipher this. Guess what? It's the same system science we discovered in 1950s. So they were looking at the body as a system using a very different language. So I've been able to fuse that. And about 10 years ago, we created an institute called Systems Health. So we have 40% are nurses who come, and we're training them. So it's not woo-woo shit. So the new age people like Nico Chopra,
that can be bad too. It's the fusion. I think
That's what I'm saying.
I nailed it because I think you're spot on what I've been thinking about medical. I think it's terrible in America, but some of the other stuff's terrible too. It needs to be fused.
Exactly.
I'd have to learn a lot more about your medical, what you're doing. Because
We bridged it, Jake. Yeah, so we bridged it where I can teach people how in a new language. And I wrote a pretty big paper, I'll send it to you on this. It's called the Control Systems Engineering Foundation of Health. So you can view your body as a system, and every food is a system,
Yeah.
and you can see how it perturbs these 3 variables. But it's founded in engineering science. So it's not woo-woo shit. The problem is the woo-woo stuff is there.
Yeah.
The Western medicine likes when people do woo-woo, because then they can attack it and counter.
exactly, but parts of it
Right.
actually works. I think,
Right.
but it was deliberately driven out, and the one was pushed was drugs, surgeries. Not that can't work, but that should be a surgery should always be a last resort. It's a professional
In a crisis
athlete.
situation.
I've never had a surgery, but I've seen so many guys get surgeries and get worse. Like they push
Yep.
so many people with surgeries. Doesn't mean a surgery can't be correct occasionally, but they just give them out.
You're saying even when you get hit or something hard,
Like for knees, for example, like I was supposed to get knee surgery for, but my knees are fine. People get knee surgeries, they keep getting them. Back surgeries, they wanted to give surgery in my neck. My neck's fine now. It's a little stiff, but doesn't hurt. It's like these, I know people that get surgeries, and a lot of times they never be the same after.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jake. In my house back in July, 4 a.m, I fell. I've never, I lift weights and everything. I fell. I got up and I felt fine. 6 days later, I had breathing issues. I've never been to the doctor.
I've been taking Digesticare for 3.5 years. It's a wonderful product. It has greatly improved my digestive system and my overall health. I've been so pleased with this product.
Emergency. So I fell on my back and I had breathing issues. So that's called a pulmonary contusion. Football players get hit in the back and they have breathing issues. Old people fall, they have breathing issues. But what 100 million people fall on their back in the world? When they go to a doctor, the healthcare system, people are telling me I fell on my fucking back.
Yeah.
They take an x-ray, they see white shit in your lungs. Oh, pneumonia. They give you antibiotics. The antibiotics lower your platelet count. Mine went from 400 to 20. And then you're at that state, they say, oh, you could get a stroke. Then you give you other drugs, and then put you on prednisone and steroid, etc. So meanwhile, I'm telling these people I fell on my back. So they have created a healthcare system that is just firing like a fucking robot to keep you in this system.
Yeah.
And I had to take, with all the shit I learned, fortunately, but still it was a mind fuck, right? Because when the shit happens to you, you're like, shit, am I doing the right thing?
It's not,
Fuck, I
oh my
didn't
God,
fuck
buddy, it sucks. But I think doctors screw a lot of people up. I've seen,
Right.
because the worst thing you can do is go to a doctor, but occasionally it's the right thing. And like antibiotics, like you said, they're brilliant, but people take them all the time. They're extremely heavy drug. People don't realize that is a serious drug you're taking. One of my friends, Gordon Ryan, he's the greatest jiu-jitsu guy, like considered ever to live. Like, he's Michael Jordan. His stomach was totally ruined because he'd taken antibiotics too much. He retired early and stuff from it because people don't understand it's a very serious drug.
Well, the antibiotics also lower your platelet count. So my theory,
What does that do? Platelet.
well, it causes strokes. So what I'm thinking going on is old people are falling on their backs. They go to the doctor. They say, oh, the radiologist has confirmation bias. He says you have this white shit. You have pneumonia. Then they give them antibiotics. Platelet count goes down. They die of a stroke. Oh, your poor grandmother. I'm so sorry she died of a stroke.
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying? The reality is, to your point, yes, we get injured. The reality is a body needs a certain amount of time to fucking heal.
Yeah.
You can't accelerate the healing. So I need about a year to heal. Because when you have a pulmonary contusion, you get an alveolar hemorrhage. Now, the leading guy in the world says, oh, you don't have that. You have this other disease. You're going to die in 3 years. And the reality is he's reading papers from 1950. The reality is when you fall on your back, the latest work says, based on the person, some of it takes 6 months, some of it take a year. So the body needs time to heal. So on the one hand, when a crisis occurs, yes, Western medicine, some of it can be good, like you're bleeding and shit and you had to tie up your bones.
Exactly.
But the reality is there's still a healing process. And the medical system, what I recently came to find out is, ties itself to workman's compensation, as I mentioned at the time. So guy falls. The intention is to get that guy to the medical system. Like this guy said, oh, Dr. Shiva, take these drugs and this. I go, isn't that going to cause problems? Yeah, you may get diabetes, you may get this, but we'll deal with that then. So the goal is you are a active pipeline. It's the sales model.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with working people, for them is they don't have the luxury because I've made some money and I have more choices. So the workman's compensation is tied to your healthcare system. The insurance companies are controlling people who are getting injured, and like slaves, they're suckering them into the system. This needs to be busted up. The relationship always has to be with the patient and the doctor, figure out what's right for them, not dictated by a fucking insurance company.
Yeah, no, it's wild. I think America, the richest country in the world, and we have one of the worst medical systems. It's just, the insurance, I think, is a big part of it. It's not, I've very rarely gone to the doctors. I don't understand it deeply, but I remember having to go to the hospital in Thailand, and I was really scared, and I went in, and the service was so much better and so much cheaper. That was just shocking to me.
Yeah, I was in Koh Samui, as I was telling you. I went to a pulmonologist there. He says, you guys, I said, your doc, he goes, he's 30-year pulmonology. He goes, there's no way you should take steroids. He goes, you need good air, and your body will just...
And air is so crucial. That's like during COVID, telling us to stay in. It's like we needed sunshine and air. We needed exercise, air, sun. And they told us to do the opposite and push fear. I think the hospitals are killing a lot of people. I don't know your thoughts on that, but I think maybe the ventilators and also the remdesivir they're putting them on.
Yeah, so the broad thing is this, Jake. The entire hospital system is part of this larger healthcare system. And and it's not like the doctors have essentially become robots. They're victims of it too.
Yeah.
Willing victims. So when an issue occurs, they literally have the bean counter saying, oh, Jake came in. How much money can I make off these tests? They must have made $250,000 off me just in 5 weeks, you say?
Yeah.
Because you're looking.
Take all these tests.
Yeah. And my primary care, I didn't even have a primary care physician. And I said, Emily, is anyone looking at all these tests? You've done 200 tests. She goes, no, Dr. Shiva. So
What's the point of them? Just to make money.
just make money. And so I did a whole video on talking about GPOs and PBMs. They're middlemen who are incentivized to crank up the cost of every procedure, everything that goes into a hospital. And those people give kickbacks to Congress, and they give kickbacks to hospital administrators. So it's not the big pharma guys are bad, but the GPOs and PBMs are the real problem. So it's been great, Jake, because when you take a systems perspective, you can literally draw these diagrams. You can see who is a fucking real problem and what needs to be taken out. But until we do that, the left will tell us this, oh, go after, universal healthcare, and the right will say, don't do that. But the issue is these middlemen called GPOs and PBMs.
Yeah, because universal healthcare wouldn't fix the problem. It would still be a complete mess. Well, it fix some of the problem, but it would still be a disaster. We need complete overhaul in our healthcare system. I don't know how to do that, but I know, well, you actually know systems. I guess that would be something you can put together because it needs to completely be torn down and rebuilt.
I was on a podcast with this guy, Jesse Jackson. You know him, his son, Jesse Jackson Jr. And he actually listened, and he said, oh, we need healthcare. I said, Jesse, the issue is not healthcare, it's what kind of healthcare is being delivered.
Exactly.
I said, why do you want to give everyone healthcare when it's going to bankrupt the country because the healthcare they're delivering is shitty. It's not personalized medicine. It's not the right medicine for the right person at the right time. It's one size fits all medicine, and they don't treat the body as a system. I said, we need to go to that venue, and I said, look, we have a way to do that. So the cool thing is, Jake, after about 40 years, we have a base at Truth for Health where we can train people. My goal is to have, I can train masters in revolution, create, like I said, 1,000 Malcolm X's, and then give people system solutions. So I created a technology out of my PhD work. We can mathematically model diseases on the computer without the need for animal testing. We can find combination therapies from natural compounds. So there are about 500,000 natural compounds in nature. If you start combining them in all sorts of combinations, the number of combinations is more than the number of atoms in the universe. So what happens is pharma doesn't want to deal with that complexity, which is a systems problem. So they say, I'm just going to give you this one compound, which does something, but it causes side effects, like remdesivir, all these drugs. The new age nutritional supplement guys, they're putting shit together, but they don't really know how it works, so they're just based it on marketing. So this technology actually helps us understand why things work, how much you should put in based on the known science today. It computes biology. So it is basically what the ancient, traditional healers did in all cultures. They would, take a little bit of this, put a little bit of that. But if you asked them, why did you do it? They said, oh, that was passed on to me. We're actually deciphering that. So it's traditional medicines, like you said, we're taking the best of the East, combining with the best of the West, and bringing them together.
So that's what we've been needing to do, because people act like one's good, one's bad, but that's not the case. There's pieces of both that can be good and bad. Same thing with left versus right. It's these distractions. Well, we just need to look at what's best for America. It shouldn't be Republican, Democrat, capitalist, communist. It's like, what is best for America and Americans?
Yep. Anyway, it's exciting because the Senate campaign we're doing in Massachusetts, we have people from all over the world helping us, Jake.
I think
we have
people ready for
Florida. Huh?
I think people are ready for change right now. I think the masses are ready for revolutionary change.
Yes, and this is like the 20s, but we have to be careful because these.
What seemed like simple tingling was actually the beginning of my forced retirement. You may think this sounds extreme.
Establishment knows it's coming. So they're gonna massively escalate the number of NSOEs. Not so obvious establishment. If you think Tulsi Gabbard and Booby manipulated us, they have a whole array of these people coming because they have all the fucking data. They're watching. This video will be put through some Palantir thing and say, "Fuck, Jake Shields, a MMA fighter is meeting with a engineer MIT guy, and they're both communicating stuff on systems understanding. This is dangerous.
Yeah.
So they're going to have someone come out tomorrow, use the word of systems, but manipulate people to the Democrat or the Republican, or even create fake independents. You saying?
Yeah.
So, but that's
what's crazy. But I think you're right. You know that they're doing this. It's insane the depths they go to. Because they have like an endless money, like the pharmaceuticals that brings in, well, the banking. They just have so much money, and they want to keep the power.
And you know where all that happens, Jake? Massachusetts.
Really?
In the 1 mile radius from where I live, between MIT and Harvard, is the think tank of the global Zionist swarm. So it was at Belfer School at Harvard that they created the backdoor portal into Twitter. It was engineered there. Okay? So MIT and Harvard are particularly Harvard and Oxford also, are the centers of the intellectual prowess of the global swarm. And Yale, if you look at Ron DeSantis, Yale and Harvard, if you look at J.D. Vance, so Yale and Harvard are where they pluck their intellectual capital to manipulate people. And those fucking people learn system science.
I was gonna say, is a think tank, is it kind of like they sit there with these systems and put together ways to kind of manipulate and control society? I never quite understood what a think tank was.
Yeah, so they're taking the knowledge of system science and they're applying it to different fields. So the Kennedy School of Government, in 1984 when it was being built, we all said it's CIA, okay? So the CIA understands system science. And they are using these principles to maximize power, profit, control. That's why I keep saying revolutionaries must learn system science. This is what was a missing puzzle. And
where's the best place to learn it? From you, I guess?
Well, what I've done, so here's the thing. You could go to MIT and learn system science. Okay, so you learn it and you're just fucking alone on your own. You could go to the Rotary Club and say you want to do, you have a community, right? All these clubs, right? Whatever. And then you could just go join BLM and do protests, right? But see, there are 3 different things. Knowledge of system science, over here at MIT, you don't have any community, you don't learn to build bottoms-up movement, or you go join some left-wing or right-wing group where you do, some protests, or you could just go join a community, like a fraternity.
Yeah.
I'm saying we need all 3.
I agree.
For Trinity, you need to have knowledge of system science, and you need a community and organizational structure. And so if you go to truthfreedomhealth.com, it's taken me a while. When you create something new, you have to figure out how to message it right and communicate this. So what I've said is real change cannot come without this trinity: theory, communication, and action. And what we've done is we've created that infrastructure. So yes, so Truth Freedom Health is the only force that I know that has done this consciously. So the goal is so people don't waste their fucking time.
Yeah.
Right? Is there so much?
It takes a lot of time to figure this out. Exactly. Someone like me doesn't have the time, but someone like you has spent years. Hey guys, I want to introduce you to one of our sponsors, Antelope Hill Publishing. Antelope Hill publishes books such as Culture of Critique by Dr. Kevin McDonald, who's someone I've interviewed him.
Do this shit. I'm just gonna follow you because I know you're a fucking master.
The amount of time that saves you. That's what it really is. Dude, like this, the difference between high level training, like. I train some pro fighters and a few really rich people. I charge insane amounts thinking people wouldn't want to do it, but then you realize, I got some of the rich people, they want to actually learn the techniques. Like, it does make a difference though, learning things correct. There's a couple guys I've trained from the very beginning, just privates, and their techniques are like so much better. It's like, oh shit, I guess from the very beginning, they're training with elite world champions. Like, one guy's trained, he's brought in like 10 world champions to train him, but he's so good for just like a hobbyist rich guy.
Well, yeah, if you look at Picasso, he would do fucking thousands of paintings over and over and over again. He didn't suddenly do this shit. When I studied engineering, I'd probably do, like you said, I'd go, come home from playing baseball at 8, work until 2 a.m., probably doing fucking 200 problems a day.
Yeah.
Like they talk about golfers hitting 10,000 balls.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of stuff that you have to just fucking do the brute force technique until you build the brain skills to do that. And that's where we're at. You have all these fucking podcasts are talking all this shit, and then we're gonna come to the point like, who the fuck actually can teach you what if you're serious?
Yeah.
So I think we're at that point. Out of all this noise, now we want to distill it, and that's where Truth Freedom Health comes in. So we've created that.
I'll check that out tonight. Tons of information on there. I'll start going.
Yeah, every Thursday, Shake, we have an open house, and I don't have to run them anymore. We have volunteers from, be it Finland, Europe, Florida, people run them. So we've created, you need an infrastructure. It has to be a professional organization, all volunteer run. So we have working people, which is really exciting. And then we give people shit to do. Like, go hand out this flyer, educate people on science, educate. So, and the Black Panthers at one point did this, right? Because the government wasn't doing this. They had certain reforms, right? Ultimately, we have to build this bottoms-up movement, but you need the theory, the communication, the action. The good news is it's all done. So I'm telling you, you just plug into it. It's like you're plugging into the juice.
Yeah.
And then our campaign is valuable because in Massachusetts, it's really interesting, 6 million voters, 60% are independents.
Wow.
Okay? 10% Republicans, 35% Democrats, but the rest are independents. So I'm running as an independent.
That's
Yeah,
great.
so we haven't.
I don't know why. It's just insane that someone's Republican or Democrat. They completely switch what they do. Like, I was never part of any party, but then I started feeling like, oh, I guess I kind of lean towards Republican because they were running on no new wars, free speech. I stand by that. Then the war with Gaza, and they wanted to, oh, let's go to war for Israel. Let's get rid of free speech. I'm like, oh, so the party thing's just, it makes no difference. And well, the Democrats used to be anti-war than the Ukraine war. They're pro that war. It's just that most people will just do, well, perfect example, look at Trump. The fact he's doing the exact opposite of what he ran on, and the people that are still following him, they just switch. It shows those people aren't really creating any independent thoughts on their own. They're just repeating whatever someone says.
And it's done, and Jake, if you look at Obama ran 2 terms, 57% of the people who voted for Trump and voted for Obama. Okay? So Obama was a character that they created because people were really pissed off with the Bush era. So they created him to bring together blacks and whites. And after they'd used him, they created this other character, Trump. You see?
Yeah.
So they have a farm league of theatrical characters. So think about this. You have a dashboard. You can see which way people are moving. Wow, the masses are fucking wanting to build a bottoms-up movement. They're going to Truth, Freedom, Health. They want to do things on their own. They're realizing
someone and delete it.
Yeah, so they're seeing that data. Okay, we're gonna have some guy talk radical shit. Here, say systems, say this, say, like, they're gonna say that shit. And their goal is, okay, brothers and sisters, we don't need to build a revolutionary movement. We can work within the system. You say? That'll be the last thing. So Jesse Jackson did this in 1984. He was building a rainbow movement bottoms up, and on the floor of the Democratic Convention, he said, brothers and sisters, we have to fight Ronald Reagan. So he brought all these activists to the left wing of the Democratic Party. That's what Bernie did, and that's what Trump did. So they have it down. So they have the establishment wings, the Mitch McConnells and the Lindsey Grahams, right? And the Hillary Clintons and the Obamas, and then they have the wings like a bird. So the wings are used to manipulate people to stay within the confines of the party.